Hi Laura, thank you for your question. So you were wondering when you have something like 1 mole is equal to Avogadro's number of 6.022 times 10 to the 23 atoms. When you're using this fraction, how do you decide whether to put moles on top or atoms on top? Because this fraction is called a conversion factor. And conversion factors are always a 1-to-1 ratio between two different units. So 1 mole is equal to 6.022 times 10 to the 23 atoms, or 1 mole is equal to 4 grams of helium, like depending on the element. So you can use conversion factors in a lot of different scenarios, and they can be written both ways. So this can also be written as 6.022 times 10 to the 23 atoms over 1 mole. And the question is, when do you know which one to use? And that depends on the units that you're trying to cancel out, because you can only cancel out units when they are opposing each other. So if I were to cancel out the moles, I'd have the mole in the numerator here and the mole in the denominator here. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you were converting 6 moles of helium into number of atoms. So you always start with what you're given. So we're given the 6 moles of helium, and then we're going to multiply it by a conversion factor to get our number of atoms. And the conversion factor we're going to use is this: 1 mole is equal to 6.022 times 10 to the 23 atoms. And the question is, do we put mole on top or mole on the bottom? Because we're trying to find the number of atoms, we want to be left with that. And if we want to be left with that, that needs to be at the top, which leaves moles at the bottom, so that these two units can be crossed off, leaving our atoms at the top. 10 to the 23. So that's how you decide what to put on top and what to put on bottom. Let me give you another example with a different conversion factor. Let's say that we are given, I'm never very good at making these up at the top of my head, but let's say we have 64 grams of helium, and we want to change that to moles of helium. And we know that the conversion factor for moles of helium is that 1 mole of helium is equal to 4 grams, because that's based on the molar mass that you get from the elements. We could also say that 4 grams of helium on top is equal to 1 mole. So the conversion factors are interchangeable. In order to go from grams to moles, we start with what we're given, 64 grams of helium. We're going to multiply it by the conversion factor, and we want to get, I don't know why this is writing as delete, but anyway, we'll just ignore that. And we want to get to moles of helium. So that means that we need to cancel out grams. So we're going to put the grams on the bottom, which in this case is 4. That will cancel out the units, and we leave the 1 mole on top. And then we go ahead and take 64 times 1, gives us 64, and then divide it by 4, and that's going to give us our number of moles. So in the big grand scheme of things, you are going to put the unit on the bottom that you wish to cancel out to give you whatever unit is left. So I hope this sort of clarifies what you're going to put on top and what you're going to put on bottom. Now you'll notice that, for instance, if we were going from, let's say, 64 grams of helium to number of atoms, we would have to do an intermediate step of doing moles first and then to atoms. So we would start with our 64 grams of helium. We'd multiply it by our molar mass, which is 4 grams per 1 mole. Oops, I didn't mean to put equals. And then our grams would cancel out and give us our moles. And then from there, we'd have to go to atoms. And we know that 6.02, can't put that on the bottom because I have to put moles on the bottom in order to cancel out my moles because I want to get atoms. So 1 mole of atoms, that cancels out, and that will leave me with 6.022 times 10 to the 23 atoms. And you can see that I crossed out my grams, I crossed out my moles, that leaves me with atoms, and then this formula of 64 times 6.022 times 10 to the 23, all divided by 4, will give me the answer in number of atoms. So your conversion factors are going to be what convert from grams to moles to atoms and vice versa. You just want to make sure that you put the correct units opposite each other that you need to cancel out. So I hope that helps. It's a great question. Thank you for asking, and I hope this makes it easier for you moving forward. Bye for now.